Welcome to the Soul Revival Podcast, where we have deep and meaningful conversations exploring modalities, tools, and healing, guiding you back to your most expansive soul self.
Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Revival Podcast. Today, we are so honored to introduce our special guest, Judy Ramsey. Judy is an intuitive healer, a shaman, and a gifted animal communicator who helps both people and animals connect on a deeper soul level. Through her compassionate guidance, she supports healing, clarity, and heart-centered transformation. We're so excited for you to experience her wisdom, warmth, and incredible insight in today's conversation. Judy, we love to kick every episode off with the same question. What aligns you most to your soul self?
What aligns me to my soul self? Probably my shamanic practice completely, but also my own animals that I have, which currently are down to just a cat and a dog, but they're a big part of my life.
That's so beautiful. I have animals as well, and they really are just a mirror reflection of our own souls and the love that we give out. And they're incredible. They're incredible souls that just want love.
And I would say probably I live on a farm out in the country, so being in nature is very important to my soul.
That is definitely one of my answers as well, Judy. I spend as much time outside as I can. Judy, obviously, I have the pleasure of getting to learn from you in the animal communication class that Shift Network is putting on. And I've loved everything about all the classes that you've taught. I would say the shamanic journeys that you've taken us on were absolutely amazing, life-altering experiences. And for me personally, I've gone and done a lot of learnings and learned about a lot of different modalities, learned a lot about modalities that I didn't want to get trained in, and learned a lot about modalities that I did want to get trained in, and letting my intuition guide that. But I would say that your journeys and the classes that you had that where you took us through journeys definitely made me want to deeper dive into the shamanic work. Do you mind sharing maybe a specific story or instance? I know you teach shamanism and you've got a group circle, correct, as well?
Yes, I do.
Do you mind sharing just maybe one or a few like really profound stories, either for yourself or others that you've experienced doing this work? I mean, you introduce concepts to the class that I think most people that are probably very spiritually in tune and are doing this deep work weren't even familiar with, and access to other realms that I think a lot of people in class weren't even aware of. So I'm sure you've had many stories of huge shifts, but I'd love to hear any that you would like to share with us.
I have to be honest with you, Lindsay, I've been so busy, I haven't thought of any, but I can. Probably the shamanic communications and the shamanic, and the shamanic healings have provided some profound results for the animals that I work with. I focus my practice primarily on animals, although I do work with people too, with shamanic healing. And some years ago, I combined telepathic with shamanic, which isn't hard to do because they're both very intuitive skills. I would say with my own horse, my youngest horse kept having repeated colics. And we are 45 minutes from the nearest veterinary hospital that could take a horse. And it was winter time, and she colicked, and she was in shock. So there wasn't any time to do a diagnostic when we got to Michigan State, to the large animal clinic. And the doctor who knew, she had done 2 previous colic surgeries on the same horse. She knew I was an animal communicator, but they had never indicated that that would be helpful. And in this, when we presented in shock, and she had to get into the surgery right away, the doctor asked me to communicate with her and see exactly where the colic was located.
We want to express deep gratitude for everybody who sponsors the podcast. It really, really matters. It allows us to invest our time, effort, and energy in bringing you the most relevant spiritual content. So if you're feeling called, please subscribe, click like, leave a review, or sponsor the podcast. We very, very much appreciate you.
And when I asked the horse what she showed me the exact place. And because I know my anatomy, I said it's between the kidney and the liver. And what had happened was she had this space between her kidney and her liver where her intestines had gone in and been pinched. And she was in excruciating pain. And so she was in surgery. I was doing a shamanic journey while she was in surgery. They had a viewing space at the time. And I was watching her in surgery. The doctor kept coming out of surgery and to us, in the waiting rooms. It's exactly where she said it was. And I wondered, who's flying the plane? She did the surgery because she could go exactly to the right spot immediately. The surgery was cut by nearly 2/3 of time, which was critical. And my horse healed in record time. But that wasn't the most amazing thing. The most amazing thing was because she knew what was going on. 6 weeks later, I had to take her back for another surgery. And this was from a vet who had developed a very special suture because the kidney and the liver are light, fibrous materials, and regular sutures will not fit. So he called me before he went into surgery, and he said, well, it's going to take about 2 hours. And so he went in, and 15 minutes later, he called me and he said, we can't do anything. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, she has fused that area herself. There is now a membrane between the kidney and the liver, and this will never happen to her again.
Wow.
And he sent me pictures. I still had to pay $1,200 for the pictures, but at least we didn't have to go the full surgical route. So that was one of the more amazing things that's happened.
That is absolutely amazing. And I love that share because those who listen to our podcast regularly know I've had a similar experience. So my pathway for communication is Reiki. And when I'm in the chakras, I get a lot of messages, and it sounds a little bit similar to shamanism as your pathway. And my dog Valor, who I mentioned to you before we went live today, who's now on his third rodeo with me in this lifetime of mine, we shocked and awed my vets so many times it wasn't even funny. Like times that they told me there was no viable living tissue on a Thursday. Monday morning we went in after doing a full weekend of Reiki, and there was all live viable tissue there. And so isn't it just, I just think it's amazing because I think that's actually a big part of the purpose to it is you're expanding awareness for those in the medical field too. It's just so awesome to see them shift. My vet's office now will say to me, whatever you're doing on your end, like keep it up, do it, make it happen,
I have an interspecies counselor training program. And currently there are 8 people who have been through the program and more going through in different stages of the training. But there are 2 veterinarians who have become interspecies counselors, and they're amazing. And all of my interspecies counselors on that list know how to do both telepathic and shamanic communication and shamanic healing. They've taken I'm a teacher for Sandra Ingerman for shamanic practice. And I've developed my own curriculum as well for the animal, for working with the animals.
Can you tell us a little bit about your classes?
Sure. I have I wear two hats when I'm doing work with animals. I'm a telepathic communicator. I'm one of Penelope's instructors, as you know, and have been for about 20 years now. And so Penelope and I have been together a very long time.
Oh, I love that.
And then I teach Sandra Ingerman's classes as well in shamanic practice. And I have my own hybrid curriculum on shamanic animal communication and shamanic healing for animals, which is different than people might imagine, even practitioners or current communicators. And it really helps to expand their capabilities as communicators and as shamanic practitioners.
What types of resources does the shamanic aspect help pull in and make available to help with an animal communication?
Well, maybe it would be helpful to tell you the difference. For me,
No.
there's a difference between telepathic communication and shamanic communication. Telepathic communication, and then I'm also an animal chaplain, so ordained animal chaplain through the Compassion Consortium. So I have at least 3 codes of ethics that I follow and 3 hats that I wear, and I try to keep them very separate for ethical reasons. But there's certainly, as you have found in Penelope's class, there is not a distinct border between telepathic, intuitive sensing, and shamanic practice, the journeying as she has shown it. But when I'm teaching it, I have some very clear delineations, which are more clear on paper than they are in practice. You know, when you're in practice, you use whatever works. But the telepathic communication addresses the physical, mental, and emotional aspects of life as an animal presents symptoms and behaviors. It addresses concrete, visible issues that are present in the animal that their person has noticed or that you can actually see or palpate. It works to get the animal's perspective on causes and solutions. So you've heard Penelope say hundreds of times during this curriculum, ask the animal. And that's the main resource that we work with, is asking the animal. And the telepathic comes from the mind and from the heart in a continuous feedback loop. Concept for concept, word for word, in ordinary time, in direct response to their person's questions or comments or concerns. It's like I'm talking with the animal on the phone. Okay? It doesn't introduce anything that the clients don't bring up themselves, because that's in our ethics. And the practitioner works with both the animal and the person to connect the mind, body, and spirit of the animal. Connect to the mind, body, and spirit of the animal. Shamanic animal communication has a few differences. It addresses the spiritual aspects of life as presented by symptoms and behaviors. Shamanic healing is, for example, all about, it addresses the spiritual aspects of healing. It addresses also the feelings, sensations, and behavioral patterns and their sources through the shamanic journey or through being in the shamanic state of mind, which is a semi-trance state. And it streams from the practitioner's spirit connection with their own guides and their own capabilities of being in a different dimension to get the information. It may show details of the animal's life, what is influencing the animal so that they exhibit certain symptoms, And it shows the web of relationship in non-ordinary time in response to vibrations between the animal and its person. I can, for example, journey to the spirit of the relationship that the person and the animal have together to, as a resource, to see what else is affecting this animal, what else is affecting the relationship. And I can introduce information about all of those influencing factors without violating my code of ethics as a shamanic practitioner. The practitioner works with helping spirits to connect with the mind, body, and spirit of the animal. And the power animals add immense value because they can soothe the animal, they can clarify and augment the communication, and they can diagnose and solve problems, which telepathically, medically, I can't do. When you combine them, it combines really, I think, the best of both worlds. They both follow a code of ethics, as I mentioned before. And I follow whatever code of ethics is appropriate for that session. Even if I'm doing shamanic animal communication, I'm more likely to follow Penelope's code of ethics, just because after 20 years of experience, I know better than to introduce something that's not going to be harmonizing to the family or to the situation. They both work to support veterinary care. I would never replace a veterinarian. They both discover feelings, motivations, reasons, and solutions from an animal's point of view. They both facilitate and mediate problem solving between the animal and the person. They both aim to restore balance in the household and in that relationship. And they both require profound neutrality. For telepathy, it's being in profound neutral without any judgments, just being absolutely clear before you begin a communication. In shamanic practice, we call it the hollow bone, where you've gotten rid of all your baggage and any premises or things that you might anticipate or expect from a session. And you just clear that out.
Thank you so much. That
in a
was so,
nutshell.
yeah, that was such a powerful explanation. And I guarantee you just expanded so many people listening's awareness of both. And so I really appreciate you going into that depth. We really appreciate it. One question I would ask personally, just thinking about the way you just described it, it seems to me that if you had, like my situation, multiple lifetimes, at least on one being's part, of a relationship with another being, an animal companion, for instance, that shamanism and adding that component to the work would help you get to the root of any challenges that might have been brought in from a past life. Is that accurate?
It does, yeah. And in telepathy, in telepathic communication, you have to wait for the animal to bring it up. But if it's not important, the animal isn't going to bring it up. So even if the person is really, really curious about it, it all depends on what the animal wants to reveal at any given point in time or what they're ready for.
I love this. I love this description. And Judy, I think that the in-depth that you went into to separate all of the different hats that you wear is felt. And I'm so intrigued with the shamanism aspect of it because as you were describing it, it's almost like you go in and you find the light and you find how to turn that switch on, no matter what they've been through, no matter what they're carrying, just really being able to go in that trance state in that realm to turn their light on and bring it here in the 3D. And I think that that's such a powerful aspect. I would love to ask, how did you find out that you were in tune with all of this? How did this come about? What's the story behind all of this magic that you bring to the world?
Well, the animals had a lot to do with it. I found my way to shamanic practice when I was tossed off my horse and I broke my back and I couldn't do anything but sit and stare for about 3.5 months because I was in a back brace and not supposed to move. So I mean, it was pretty serious. I had fractures from T5 through T11 and a broken rib in 2 places, and we weren't even moving. We were standing still when he bucked me off. So
Wow.
it in the mornings, we had a particularly warm fall that year, and this was, over a decade ago. Um, so I would go out on the back porch early in the morning with my dog, and I would take my laptop, and I was just surfing, and I would tune in to a particular website that doesn't exist anymore, the Animal Spirit Network, and they used to have an an immense and really special library of all the master experts that had ever spoken for their audience over a period of probably as long as we've had computers. It certainly started in the late 80s, early 90s. And I found a master class by Carla Meske, who is a shamanic practitioner who works with animals. And I took an intensive year with Carla studying shamanism for the first time in my life. Um, Even though I take groups to Peru every year, I had no clue about shamanic practice. But when I started with Carla, I began to remember very, very quickly uh, what I had done in previous lifetimes. And it came very fast. And that was my first exposure. Yeah. And I fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's such a beautiful story. It's so crazy how sometimes our life path just really needs us to just slow down and be in silence, and how it gets us there sometimes is so devastating. But the magic that comes after is just profound. And I feel your energy, and I know what you bring and how much magic you bring to this world before even meeting you. Lindsay was telling me all about you. I was looking you up. I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to just have a conversation with her and just see what all of this magic is about and healing. I mean, it's profound healing that you bring.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I love about being in your energy and the class that I'm taking right now with Penelope is just such a beautiful, peaceful energy. I mean, not only do you have so much profound knowledge to share, which obviously everybody's getting a snippet of in this interview right now, but I think the way that you deliver it is extremely powerful, especially in today's day and age, and the all the things that we're living through right now. Having such a beautiful, calming energy and being in your presence is so important. And I'm thankful for every day that I get to be in the course, to be honest. Just if nothing else, just being in your energy and Penelope's is such a gift.
Thank you.
Judy, I don't know if you play favorites. Oh my goodness, it's 2:22 on my clock. But if you had to choose a hat, which one is your favorite hat to wear at times?
Um, that would be hard to choose because, as I say, it just depends on what the situation requires. Shamanism is a way of life, and that is a way of life that I've chosen. And so, when I put on the hats, it's when I do my work. It's when I offer my services in my everyday life. Uh, I think it's the connection to the nature spirits through my shamanic lifestyle that really generates energy for me and really guides what I do in my life.
I love that. Just full of so much gratitude. I can just hear it when you are speaking on the shamanism and everything that you do.
Thank you.
Is there a more natural pathway that you find yourself taking if you're dealing with a particularly challenging case between a human and an animal companion?
Um, well, that's, can you elaborate on that question? That's,
Well, I'm just thinking if there's kind of a natural way that you tend to lean in, if there's a situation where, an animal or and their human are really like struggling with something, like some conflict or growth in their relationship that's causing a particularly high amount of friction. I'm just wondering if there's a way that you lean in the most.
I would first address the person with my animal chaplain support, with chaplaincy support,
Mhm.
because it's generally the person whose life is upset first. And so I offer them chaplain support. And then I go into support for the animal and for the relationship. And my guide, my spirit guide, uh, is always with me. So I ask her for her input, and she does most of the teaching that I do. So I just have to do the outlines and find the slides and collect the money.
I think we all feel like that as healers, right? That we're just the pathway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I would address the person first with support.
Love that. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
I think that um, this is a year that is already pretty intense. And what's going to be important is to be very honest with yourself and with others, and be very authentic in what you present, because it's going to come back and bite you if you don't know what you're doing. And so just to proceed with slowness and with caution and with your own support. And that self-care is really at a critical stage for just about everybody. I don't know if I know anybody who's not burned out at this point, just from endurance of wartime, of natural disasters, of the politics all over the world. And it's just so, so important that we slow down and tend to our own needs.
I love that because, and the intense energy that we've all been feeling, particularly heightened, I'd say the last year and year plus, have been definitely impacting us as humans. And then when we think about how that impacts directly our relationship with our animals that we're in community with every day and how they absorb so much of what we put out energetically, I think that's such an important call out.
It is. Yes.
Beautiful message. Absolutely beautiful message. I think that, getting in tune with our bodies and understanding what our bodies are speaking through us is something that's crucial this year as well. Just, the self-care is something that Spirit's been telling me, you gotta really listen to your body and honor if you don't have time, if you don't have the energy to just sit back and understand that it's a rest period and that's okay to do. It's okay to put yourself first.
And I think the authenticity message too, Judy, is so important as, we know AI is capable of so many things and it becomes more and more of our culture. We also always have to use our authentic voice. And I think, especially as healers, making sure that we're true to our actual voice is so important because you energetically call in the people and the animals that are meant for what you're putting out. And if you're not authentic in what you're putting out, what you're matched to is not going to be right either.
Sure.
Yes.
Judy, how can people find you?
Through my website is just judyramsey.net. And that lists all of the classes. It lists my background and the training programs that I offer. And it also is a way to contact me if I still do one-on-one consultations with animals and their people. So that's a good way to contact me.
Awesome. Well, Judy, it was such an honor to have you on the Soul Revival podcast. Thank you to our listeners for listening in. This is one you don't want to miss, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Judy.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Follow our podcast. We release a new episode each and every week, and join us on Facebook inside the Soul Revival community. Come be a part of the magic. We'll see you there.